Welcome back to another episode of the Gateway RV Transport Podcast. Today, Justin and I are just going to be giving a background about Gateway, who we are, what we do, and kind of our place in the industry. So thanks again for listening. We love doing these podcasts. It gives us a chance to take a step out and explore not only the industry and our drivers and other people in the industry, but why we do what we do, which is kind of how we want to take this podcast, is why we're here, what the industry is about, and why we still work here.
Yeah, so I'll start by explaining a little bit about what Gateway RV Transport. So it's, in my mind, a fairly simple business model, but we've been around it for so long, maybe it's not. But the RV manufacturing capital of the world is in Northeast Indiana, so the Elkhart County area. And so Forest River, Thor, you may have heard of some of these other RV manufacturer companies. Their primary base of operations is in Northeast Indiana. And so the RV manufacturers, to get the RVs after they've been made to the dealerships, they use companies like us, RV transport companies, to deliver them safely and quickly. And so we operate out of, our main office is near Kendallville and Albion, Indiana. If you're familiar with this area, it's Northeast Indiana. And we have a couple of different yards that we pull from, but we'll pick up RVs from different manufacturers, take them to one of our lots, where we will then get independent contract drivers to deliver them across the country using 3/4 ton or 1 ton pickups. So that's the basics of what we do. That's the vast majority of our business, is delivering RV trailers. And so there's, we're familiar with the other RV transporters out in this space, and there's some similarities and differences between us all. But that's a little bit about what we do. Does that cover it?
Yeah. I mean, it's an industry that if you had never been introduced to it, you probably had never thought about it being an actual, sub-industry of the transportation or the RV world. It's a pretty niche company in what we do. It's pretty specific, and it's, in theory, pretty simple. Simple business. We are just contracted to move newly manufactured RVs to dealerships generally.
Yeah. Well, and like any business, there's a lot more to it than you would initially get on the surface level. So compliance stuff, there's, commercial drivers have limitations on a lot of things that they're able to do. And anybody familiar with commercial driving recognizes those things: insurance, accidents, damages. Any business where you're working with people and negotiating a variety of different problems. If you get to a dealer and the RV is not what they ordered, there's a lot of things like that most of the time you wouldn't encounter or even think about, but they're, like every business, there's going to be problems and things that you deal with. And then just a little plug on the RV industry as a whole. It's a huge industry. The RV industry within the recreation industry has a huge portion of the market. I mean, the RV business is a multi-billion-dollar industry. And just a plug for RVs and what they mean to me. So it is a way that allows people to enjoy the benefits that camping and the camping lifestyle have, whilst being able to still maintain a lot of the comforts and accessibility. And so, like, the beauties of the outdoors, I think camping is really good for people. I think it's good for society. I think, and it's a very American thing, I think. Obviously, I have not traveled the world so much, but the RV industry, we have the infrastructure to support it in a way that I don't think any other country really has. Would you say that's true? At least the way that we do it?
I'd say it's probably true in a lot of ways. I know a lot of non-Americans' version of camping is a little bit different than our version. I would just hazard a guess that maybe Australia is probably the most similar, because the size of our country is such that there's a lot of open, natural places that people can go and explore. Take somewhere like a lot of Europe, beautiful outdoors, but I think it's a little bit harder to camp, at least in this way there. And then if you extend it out further, I bet that a lot of the world doesn't have maybe even the luxury of camping. It's definitely a privilege to be able to have so much abundance in your life that you've got the time, you have the resources to be able to go camping. So in that way, it probably is pretty American. A lot of the things line up to where there's the financial ability to do so, the time allotment to do so, the freedom, and the place to do it. There's a lot of, obviously Canada is going to be doing just
Yeah,
as
that's a
much
good point,
as we are here. But yeah, I'd say it's at least our version of camping.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
Which
It's
I
pretty
thought about,
American.
if you tried to explain camping to somebody, a couple hundred years ago, like, what are you talking about? You just go like pitch your tent somewhere different than normal. Yeah, or maybe not a couple hundred years ago, but
Yeah.
a long time ago.
Yeah.
But I think camping is awesome. I think it's not for everybody, I suppose, but the people that don't like, there are a lot of people who like RV camping that don't love, roughing it or tent camping or all these different things. I think every type of camping is good and should be enjoyed. Like, I love tent camping, setting up a hammock, sleeping on a tarp, doing a nice RV, glamping, if you ever done that, like staying in these nice places. So I think that RVs give this ability for families to get together, do something, disconnect, be somewhere fun and beautiful, have a variety of fun life experiences, and create these foundational memories. Like, a lot of my memories growing up, some of my favorite experiences were camping with cousins and with siblings, and running around in the woods. I think it's really cool. And so, zooming out, we get to be involved in this industry that, we get to deliver a product that allows people to enjoy adventure and freedom together with their families. And that is meaningful to me. So we have talked extensively about, why it is that we do what we do. And maybe I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but it's not just about delivering a product. At least for me, it's not that. It's that we are participating in delivering freedom and adventure, and we strive to do it with expert class. And so that's what we're about here. It's at every level of the business. For the end user, it's about giving them access to freedom and adventure that's unlocked through RV camping and RV living and RV lifestyle stuff. And then for drivers, it's to offer them the freedom that comes from this industry, being able to be an independent contractor that sets their own schedule, doesn't have somebody telling them what to do. They're in their truck with their own thoughts for the vast majority of the time, driving around the country, seeing beautiful places. And I think it's even different than driving semi. I think that there are I think that you can maybe have some similarities between driving traditional trucking and the RV industry, but there's a difference. I think one of the differences is, after you drop that trailer, there's the freedom to be able to explore in a way that is not going to be really possible, even bobtailing in a semi, being empty without it. I just think there's a difference. I feel like the independence is in general better than traditional trucking. And so there's an appeal for this freedom and this adventure, and the same thing that we're delivering, I believe that it's trying to offer that to drivers as well. And so that's kind of my view on what we do. Is we deliver a product, but more than that, we're participating in delivering freedom and adventure. And in my mind, it's kind of the American dream. And so that gets me pumped up, and I think that's something that I can do for decades. If I was just delivering a product, I don't think I could get super passionate about that.
Yeah. And it's cool to see from the driver's perspective the ability to take in that freedom, as you were describing. A lot of our drivers they all come from very different places, and that's kind of the point of this podcast, is to get to know some of them and their backgrounds. But the reason that they stay in this industry is pretty much the same. It's that they have freedom. They have the ability to go, it's obviously limited to what trips we have available at a given time. But most of the time, they've got the ability to travel most of the continental U.S. If a driver wanted to, in a 12-month period, I bet they could really touch just about every part of the continental U.S. We deliver to all 48 states and occasionally Alaska. We have yet to do Hawaii, but...
Although last month we took a trailer to the port that went to Hawaii,
right,
which is as close as we're ever going to get. So
right.
It ended up in Hawaii, but
right. Well, in that same way, I guess we've delivered to South Korea and France and
Dubai.
Yeah.
Japan, I think.
So I guess to answer one of your earlier questions, this version of camping is spreading, throughout the world if we're shipping them. But I've been RV camping in the UK, and it is different. But I do love, getting back to my original point. Now, this is a tangent on a tangent, but the freedom that a driver gets to experience. So, there's different layers of that freedom. The end user, our drivers, and then even us in the office, we really are trying to cultivate a company and an environment that coincides with somebody's life goals. We really try hard to make a place where this isn't just a job. We know that at the end of the day, the reason everybody's here, including our drivers, is because they need, provide for their family. That makes sense. That's the primary goal. But if there's a way to tie in what you do for work with your personal aspirations, I mean, I feel like that's a win. And that's a big part of what we're trying to do, is to allow people to grow in a way that they want to, and let Gateway be a part of that. Help them to get to that next. That's what I'm trying to do personally. I know you're doing the same thing. I know our other people in the office have bigger goals than just a 9-to-5 job. And I really feel like this is a good place that does that. But
yeah. Well, and to tell you a little bit about how Gateway started, just to give it some context. So in 2001 is when Gateway officially started. And Kevin's episode probably gets into this a little bit more. So Kevin Kennedy is Jordan and I's dad. He started doing RVs for a dealer down in Texas, Terry Vaughn's down in Texas, which is still in operation. And eventually he started working with Forest River, specifically Cherokee, who we still work with today. We've worked with a lot of different Forest River factories and dealerships. And so it's expanded since then. But for over 20 years, we've been pulling RVs, and it started with our father, Kevin, pulling RVs down to Texas. And so got a few more guys involved. Our Uncle Kim, who many people listening would know Kevin and Kim. They've both been around it the entire time, and they're still involved. In fact, they were both here this morning. Kim was loading up to head to Colorado, do a couple of drive-by showings at dealerships before he drops in California. And Kevin was on his way to Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
So they're still involved. And then Jordan and I got involved. I guess I got involved full-time 13 years ago. Took a 2-year break to serve a mission with my church, but been involved for about 11 years. So,
and I'm about the same amount of time, just a slightly different start date, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the same thing. I mean, I don't know if your goal was always to be involved. I know my goal was, at least like when I graduated high school, was to do anything but get involved. I very much, arrogant high school kid. I wanted to pave my own path, do my own thing. I always liked the idea of small business. And I think I knew that would be my eventuality, would be something entrepreneurial, small business. But I always thought I want to just figure it out on my own. Who knows? Maybe one day I'll have my own small business too. But wanted to try to stay away from anything RV or trucking. Just that wasn't my appeal or desire. But the world works in a crazy way.
You really wanted to be a stay-at-home son, but
I think that's everybody's dream now.
Just kidding.
But the freedom is what started. I mean, this was just maybe the benefit of being there at the right time. But I was able to be a full-time student and have a job that was flexible with my schedule, and learn firsthand small business, from the inside. And I've worked with a few different small businesses and been able to see how they grow, what challenges that they have. And in fact, I've only ever worked for small businesses. And so seeing how they've, from the beginning to a place where they're trying to go, take the company public with a IPO, and to where it's, they're trying to transition out of ownership, just different parts of the small business life cycle. I've just been fortunate to be around. And this has continued to be a really illuminating experience from just a small business management perspective. And I don't know, hey, we're still here, so I guess there's something about it. But it's been, I don't know, it's very educational from day to day, the stuff that we have to deal with. And I'm sure some of the subsequent episodes we delve into that a little bit more, of the nuance of this industry. But it's always keeping you on your toes. There's always something new to do, and I think that's what I like too. Is it's not so rote.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, it's our hope that we want to continue to work with more people. Jordan and I have talked about this a lot as well. Is that our favorite part of this is the people, and you meet some awesome people. We've gotten to see some awesome places, and I don't know. That's what I hope to continue to expand that, to offer that to everybody who's a part of Gateway, whether that's a driver or a dealership or factory or anybody else that we work with.
Now, I know that the purpose of this particular episode was to kind of introduce Gateway more so to people that are not familiar with our industry. And so there's a few questions that I get more often from people that are not familiar with this industry. One of them is like who our customers are. And we've definitely mentioned that over, throughout this episode and others. But our customers they do change. But most of the time it's the RV manufacturers, which are, like you said, are most of the time positioned somewhere in North Indiana. But sometimes it's also the dealer, a dealership that's selling new RVs. We do have customers who are the dealer. At different times in Gateway's past, we've also worked with the end user, privately owned RVs, and just transporting them privately. And so those three different stages of the RV process we've delivered and deliver in each one of those scenarios. But most of what we do is newly manufactured RVs from the manufacturer.
Yeah.
And there's a few reasons for that. It is just simpler. We get working with manufacturers. It's so familiar and every day that even when a problem comes up, there's protocols in place to be able to handle it. When hauling for private individuals, that's not always the case. But some of those people are great and they really appreciate what we do too. But a lot of people think what we do is a combination of trucking and Amazon delivery. And that's not the case. It's not an Amazon, hey, I ordered a trailer, it needs to be here tomorrow, and I might just want to return it anyway after I use it. It is different than that. Another common question that I get is, are your drivers expected to follow the rules that big trucks are? And for anybody that's not familiar with what those rules are, most of the time it's how many hours you can drive, how many hours you can be on duty, basically a driver's logbook. And we are held to the same standard in most cases, compliance-wise, as any over-the-road truck is. And so there's a whole department that we have that's dedicated to making sure that our drivers are safe and compliant. That's a big part of what we do. We've seen a lot of improvements in the industry over the last 10 years. We've seen a lot of improvements in our own processes over that same kind of time period. Back in we call them the Katrina days, when Hurricane Katrina happened, there was a huge push to get housing to victims of Hurricane Katrina. And at that time, they basically took away all the restrictions on commercial transporters that were delivering down there. And it was just anybody that can take a trailer, no rules, go ahead and go. And since then, I think that there was an uptick in non-compliance in the industry as a result of that. But the RV industry has gotten a lot better with their compliance. It used to be kind of Wild West cowboy. That's not the case anymore. We are pretty strict. And when I say we, I mean really the Department of Transportation is pretty strict on what we do.
Yeah. So the Katrina days, and then we had the COVID days. Those are two unlikely to occur events again. Not just because the hurricanes will happen again, but the way that the circumstances have changed, the game's changed there.
Yeah.
Some of the questions I get a lot, I think one of the biggest misunderstandings is people who, when they hear RVs, I think they think a lot of motorhomes. Mm-hmm. And motorhomes, I mean, it's been a while since I've looked at the numbers, but that's only about 10%. And for us, that's almost nothing. We've done motorhomes a little bit, but we don't move motorhomes really. We move travel trailers, fifth wheel trailers, things that you pull behind a truck, which is much more common than motorhomes. But they are seeing, and I won't go down this rabbit hole too much, but there are some changes in the trends on which products are selling and which ones aren't. And I have my own theories on what I think will continue to happen. I think that the van life movement will ebb and flow, but I think you're going to see more people getting into converted vans, so like small motorhomes type things. And what's been surprising to me, but I'm kind of starting to wrap my head around it, is parked models. So destination trailers that you don't, take weekend warrior camping. That's not the type of thing. This is ones that it's halfway between an RV and, say, a trailer that you would see in a trailer park, like a mobile home. Mm-hmm. And those are rising. Those are becoming much more common and popular. I think, people having the kind of tiny home type thing. And so That's one of the biggest misconceptions I think people think. They also think that I sell RVs, which we do have some RVs for sale because we end up buying some for whatever reason. There's a variety of circumstances, but that's not really what we do. We are the transport company.
Mhm.
So
And when I'm describing what we do to, to around a, I don't know,
when you're golfing with the mayor,
when I'm, yeah, that would be embarrassing. Golf is not a strong suit. After the sell of why this is a great industry, that freedom aspect. One of the common questions is, how does somebody get into that industry? And again, there's as many different ways to get in the industry as there are drivers that are in the industry. But most of the time, it's somebody that is looking for kind of a part-time gig. A lot of semi-retired guys or ladies, that have some sort of experience in transportation. But again, that's not always the case. Some of our most successful drivers come from a totally out of the industry background. Something that has nothing to do with transportation at all. They just like the idea of seeing the country, having the freedom to go. Maybe they're semi-retired, want to stay busy, want to get out of the house. And this is really a perfect job for those people. In fact, we onboard a lot of guys that are retired or semi-retired that hire on with the intention of taking a trip or two a month. And a lot of times those guys end up being some of our biggest drivers. I mean, the ones that just go.
Yeah. It's interesting too. I think there's been a shift in the demographics, like particularly the age. It seems like over the last, 10, 15 years maybe, but we have a lot more younger drivers than we used to. I think that will continue, is my theory. I think that will continue to be the case. It's also, for example, I remember a few years ago, we only had a few female drivers. Now we have proportionately a lot more. Mm-hmm. Some of it's husband, wife. A lot of the times that's pretty common, but not always. We have, so that's been kind of interesting. It's tended to be a male dominated industry and still is somewhat, but it's become more diversified there. Mm-hmm. Just an interesting demographical note. Mm-hmm. So we'll see what continues to happen.
I think one of the appeals as well to a young working person is the barriers to entry are pretty low.
Yeah.
You need to have a truck. There are some limiting factors, of course. We have a minimum requirement when it comes to the equipment. And you have to have a good enough driving record.
And 2 years of experience.
And 2 years of experience that so you can be
bus
insured.
drivers and box truck delivery guys and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. But you look at different businesses to start. It takes a lot to start a legitimate business, and most small businesses fail fairly quickly. This is one that is lower risk and lower, like you said, lower barrier to entry. It's still a cost, a truck, but you make the payments on the truck, the business pays for itself. There's not a lot of complications beyond that. So that's like, especially it seems like we attract a lot of entrepreneurial minded people. And like you were saying, a lot of people that do this where they also have their hands in other things. I think that's one of the appeals too, is you can do this, but not only this. You can do other things as well, including having a full-time job. Like we have some people, like teachers is an interesting example of one where, they do it during the summers, maybe spring break, fall break, that kind of thing, or cops that are now part-time or retired, everything that you were saying. So I don't know, a lot of different people could do it, which is cool.
A question I get a lot related to that is, do you have to have a CDL? And the answer is no. It does help because there are compliance restrictions on total weight that you just have to have a CDL for. But a lot of what we do is under that weight. And so a lot of our drivers, what percentage of our drivers would you say are CDL? That's a good
point. It's gone up, but what was it? It's maybe 25%.
Have CDLs.
Yeah. And even then, like most of the trailers, even the big ones, you usually don't need a CDL. Like some of the really big ones you do, but even most of the park models you don't. Most of the bigger fifth wheels you don't.
Yeah. We have a small part of our fleet of drivers is what are called Hollantos, where the manufacturer ships 2 or 3 small units on a flatbed. And so you might notice that now that if you've never been introduced to RV transportation before, you will start to see trucks with magnetic placards on the sides pulling campers.
Yeah.
And you'll feel like, how come I've never seen these before?
They're all over the place.
They're all over
and
the
not
place.
just in Indiana, but especially if you live around here. For example, every day when I do take 33 home through Churubusco,
Mm-hmm.
there's always an RV transporter pulled over. There's a cop that just always gets them because he knows.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they don't have their plates on, they don't have their magnets on or whatever. But like
Mm-hmm.
there's the RV guys everywhere. My drive home from work, I pass a guy. He drives for Synergy. You probably know the guy I'm talking about. Lives. I won't say too much
Mm-hmm.
more than that, I guess. But it's like I see his truck all the time, and sometimes an RV. I think he changed jobs recently because I don't see RVs anymore. He looks like he drives semi too. But the point is, you see him all over the place.
Yeah.
But I've been out. You go out on I-80 in Nebraska, and you see RV, and you can tell immediately, especially us, but the difference between just somebody going camping and that's an RV transporter.
Yep.
Auxiliary fuel tank in the back. It's a dually. The window signs, of course, you got your signs that say that, but you can tell.
Yeah. One of my favorite things, and I know this, it doesn't drive my wife crazy. That's definitely an over-exaggeration, but she definitely sometimes maybe rolls her eyes when we see an RV transporter coming our way and I have to see who it is.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But when it's a Gateway placard,
Yeah.
man, I get so excited,
Yeah.
especially if we're out of town. If
Yeah.
we're like coming back, like we recently were in Texas, driving back from Texas. I think it was in maybe Tennessee. And I saw the Gateway placard. I recognized it. I knew who it was. I knew that, and
Yeah.
that was cool to see the Gateway logo
See one of your,
out in the
your
world.
guys out
Yeah.
there. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's cool. And yeah, it's the same. I have a problem where, like, if we're out camping, I see a gray wolf. Be like, oh man, I'd love to check the VIN and see if we delivered that.
Yeah.
I don't do that, but like,
Yeah.
there's something like, and especially if I can see, you'll see oftentimes the sticker at the dealership that they bought it from. Like, we deliver to that dealer all the
Mhm.
time. We deliver that product all the time. It's like, we might have delivered that. I might have delivered that camper. And so part of me is like, wants to just look at the VIN tag and just look it up and see if we delivered that one.
Yeah.
But
Right.
I don't do that, but I'd like, because people would be creeped out. And
Well, yeah. If you're
I'm not
if you're
gonna be doing
Googling
that.
their VIN number, taking pictures
Yeah.
of their.
That's why I won't do that. But so this is the last sales pitch. I think this is a great industry at various levels of it. The industry. I think, if you don't want to get into delivering RVs, maybe you'll come around to it. But if not, I think you should really consider the benefits of getting out there and camping. I think if you're not an outdoors person, there's ways to still enjoy camping without having to go through all of that. And so, just as my plug for the RV industry, I think there's freedom and adventure that they can unlock that you'd be beneficial to your life to pursue that. And
Mhm.
there you go.
My only sales plug would be kind of from the other standpoint of the selling us as a transport service. We really care about what we do, and hopefully that doesn't come across as disingenuous. It's true. We care about our drivers. We care about their success. We care about the companies that we work with. There's a lot of RV transporters. I mean, there's a lot. There's a dozen or two big players that do just RV transporters. And then there's a bunch of smaller companies. Some are great. Some are not as great. But when we compare ourselves to other RV transport companies, we love when other transport companies are great because we feel like that compels us to be better. I know that's kind of maybe backwards of what you'd expect. You'd kind of hope that all of your competitors would be terrible. But we care about this industry. We care about the image of RV transporters and what we do, not only in the eyes of our customers, the manufacturers or the dealership, but we just really take pride in what we do. And one of the things that I know Justin will never say this, but that he's great at is, and now it's kind of extended to the Gateway environment, is taking it seriously and owning it. And we make mistakes like anybody else, but we really try hard to improve, to take responsibility for what's good and what's bad in with what we do or what happens, and just go from there. Just learn and do the best that we can with where we're at. And I feel like we do a good job of that. We really, if you're a driver listening to this, hopefully we have a personal relationship. You're listening to this and you know Justin and I already. If you feel like you don't, please come in. But I feel like we have a pretty good relationship with all of our drivers. And that's not by accident. We really care about the people that we work with, trusting them, and also enjoying being here. I would hate it if the people that I worked with just drove me crazy, or I knew I drove them crazy, which that actually might be true. But we care about the people that our drivers that we see daily or weekly or even only a few times a year, but we talk to them all the time on the phone. When they have small personal catastrophes, our heart act goes out to them. We really care about a driver's success on and off the road. There's only a little bit of, like, in our circle of influence, we might not be a huge impact on a person's life. We get it. We just maybe are a company that they work with. But even in that small circle of influence, we hope that it's a positive influence. And I think that's a big part of what we want to do is, regardless of who we interact with, whether it's a customer or whether it's the security guy that's just making sure that we're picking up the right thing, we want to have a positive impact on the people that we interact with. And we doubly hope so. That's terrible phrasing. We hope so doubly when it comes to the relationship with our drivers, that we're having a positive impact, because other than a few exceptions, it's definitely the case the other way around. We feel like our drivers have a big impact on us in a positive way. And I can't express enough gratitude to our drivers for that.
Yeah. Well, I agree. Thank you so much for listening, and we hope to get you in. So come talk to Jordan. We basically are launching out season 2. For those of you who listened to any episodes before, you may notice there's a year gap between the episodes. We kind of dabbled with season 1. We're really amped up about doing another round. So come talk to Jordan and I. I promise we'll make it as positive an experience as possible. Yeah. It is a little bit hard to get used to, even me right now, talking into a microphone, sitting across the desk from Jordan, and nobody else is around, but knowing that there's a possibility of someone else listening to this. It's a little bit of a weird concept to get past. You'll get past it soon, and I think it'll be a really good experience. So come get on the podcast, I guess.
And we have better equipment this season. So for anybody that did listen, our equipment was not great on the first season. So thanks for listening. Hopefully, going forward, it will only get better. Yeah. Anyway.
Okay. Thank you so much.